Thank you for joining. We'll be celebrating National Apprenticeship Week shortly. We will be introducing your programs. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the call this afternoon in celebration of National Apprenticeship Week. We have several amazing organizations on the line right now. My name is Justina Winfrey, founder of Workforce Innovation Network. Out of curiosity, can everyone hear me well?
Crystal system.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Yes,
Okay.
very well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, right now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Michael Holmes, founder of the Black Community Providers Network.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How you guys doing?
You're doing well.
I'm Michael Holmes, Executive Director of Black Community Provider Network. Essentially, it's an organization that serves as a collaborative, community-based organization that work in the Black community, primarily interested in developing an infrastructure that provides services to Blacks throughout the state of Illinois. So we've been in existence since 2018. Currently providing training and technical assistance to community-based organizations. throughout the state of Illinois.
Awesome.
Thank you. Now, one of the organizations that we currently have on the line is Changing Oasis with Audrey Woodley. Sister Audrey, can you please introduce yourself and your organization and the current work that you do in the community?
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone. My name is Audrey Woodley, founder and CEO of Changing Oasis. We are a nonprofit agency that's been around since 2000 and I want to say 9. And what we do, what I do as a teacher, educator, is I offer GEDs, high school diplomas, and apprenticeships to our youth and adults. And currently, we are looking at building more spaces for those adult learners to come into the trades. So that's it for me. We can't hear you.
Thank you. We also
Okay.
have Craig Hardaway on the line from Impact Solutions. Can you please introduce yourself in the organization, Craig? And I do know that you're just leaving a turkey pass out in the community with your organization.
Yeah, so it's actually Impact Social Solutions. Um, what we currently do in the community is we collab with and bring together different networks within Chicago that's currently doing victim impact services, violence intervention, prevention services. Currently, we're getting ready to embark on re-entry. We're looking at re-entry, pre-release, then post-release. We'll be dealing with our participants within a year of them prior being released, coming home, providing them with the resources and services and full wraparound services, whether through us or one of our assistancy agency network. Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh, forgive the reception. Thank you. And we have West Side Center for Change on the line as well. Is there a Okay, awesome. Thank you.
My name is Lorenzo Strong for Westside Committee for Change. We're new to the nonprofit sector right now, just starting out, but our goal is to.
Forgive me, one moment. We just want to make sure that everyone hears you clearly. There is an echo in the background. So the second, here, let me go ahead and there we go. Thank you so much. Please reintroduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Lorenzo Strong, treasurer for Westside Committee for Change. We're new to the nonprofit sector, and our goal, our initiative is to try and um, beautify our neighborhoods, get some of these abandoned buildings that are in demolition, fix them up and train our youth, some men and women, and just empower everyone in the neighborhoods to take back our neighborhoods.
Thank you. We also have Mr. William King on the line from the Boss radio station in Nebraska.
How's everybody doing? William King. I'm the CEO of Omaha Community Broadcasting. I operate 95.7 The Boss radio station here in Omaha. We'll be on the air for 9 years. We came under new legislation. We're a 100-watt radio station and we're a nonprofit station. So our goal is to make sure that we create localism in our community. So we play local music, we highlight local businesses, clergy, politicians, et cetera, et cetera. And then also right now, I just develop a consultant firm where we are helping other nonprofits all across America start their own radio stations in their own communities. Right now, with our station, we reach 700,000 people. We go about maybe a 20-mile radius, so we cover all of Omaha, the suburbs, as well as Council Bluffs, Iowa. This opportunity is available right now. The window is going to be coming open December 6th through December the 13th, and I'm helping nonprofits all across America right now to get their own stations in their own communities. And so you can reach me at hopefully at 402-714-6482. I'm getting that quick plug. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are just wanting to go ahead and simply give an overview of the purpose for the call. And I'd like Mike Holmes to give the overview of how the Black Providers Network can be the conduit for these organizations in the community that don't necessarily know how to navigate the process of grant funding at the federal level and even at the state level.
Yes, thanks, Justina. Yes, so back in 2016, I don't know if you guys are, familiar with, we had a governor that decided to not fund an operating budget for the state of Illinois. And one of the things that we learned as a result of that experience is that there's a portion of the budget, operating budget for the state of Illinois, that impacts the social service community of Illinois. Basically, all human services were impacted by that particular experience. And through that experience, we saw community-based organizations, particularly Black-led, Black community-based organizations and Black communities, take a hit, suffer as a result of not really having an infrastructure to sustain their work in the event a situation like that occurred and they were not able to access or receive public funds. What we began to do is have a conversation about, at the end of his term, going into a campaign where we were looking at possibly having a new governor. We began to look around communities to see what the impact was as related to agencies and their sustainability, and found that a lot of agencies literally had to close their doors because of their reliance on these particular funds and their ability to access these funds to be able to provide the services that they were providing. So that in itself, began to make us think about, and when I say us, there are several executive directors of organizations that were able to manage through that experience, came together to start talking about sustainability moving forward, because there's no guarantee that wouldn't happen again. And so as we began to have those conversations, we started talking about what can we do as a collective. And that basically sort of helped us to develop this concept of, pulling all Black community-based organizations together, developing a strategy around not just advocacy, but how do you build capacity within these organizations to kind of foster some sustainability for the future. And a lot of people frown on public dollars to the extent that there may be too much bureaucracy involved, there may be too much politics involved. As a person that sat in state government for over 30 years, I can tell you that government can assist in creating the sustainability for communities, particularly the communities that we are in, trying to make sure there are viable services and viable opportunities for our folk, particularly Black folk. So BCPN has currently amassed over the last since 18, I guess 7-8 years, through various initiatives. We did a lot of work around the census, got an opportunity to kind of foster this concept where if BCPN was able to advocate for the resources, how would you then distribute the resources, throughout the community to particular agencies to provide those services? And we were very, I think, mindful of the fact that, we didn't want to put money in one source. We wanted money to go out to the community, go to particular organizations directly, so that we can then see organizations manage their own resources and be able to directly put their hands on people in the community to ensure that those services were being delivered. So now we're sitting on a database of maybe 300 individuals that may represent over 125, 130 organizations across the state. And for the last 2 years, we've been specifically focused in on developing a training catalog or a cadre of trainings that enhances and build capacity of organizations to actually deliver services and provide the work. And it's not just a singularly focused service. It's a very comprehensive network of organizations, services from youth development all the way through to some degree health services, some services to seniors. We're doing violence prevention. We have organizations focused on reentry, organizations that focus on education. So it's a very comprehensive work. And I think, to Justina's point, we're building in our minds, and what we're hoping to be doing is building a sort of vehicle for the Black community to be seen as a opportunity for the public sector to utilize resources through a network of organizations that are in the community to be able to address some of the issues and the problems that people deem exist, and really, as you identify what those resources are for, we kind of believe that Black folks should be the ones that's servicing Black folks in those various areas and dealing with those issues ourselves. So I think that kind of, is where we are. And that's some of our thoughts around, where can these organizations be and where can these organizations go and what they can do. And I think the more we build some stability and with organizations in our community, I think that creates the sustainability and the infrastructure of being able to service our own community.
Thank you so much for the overview, Mike, and the information, the organizations that have been, that are currently running pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship trades programs and are currently seeking to align their current programs with pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship trades programs. Dr. Gail Frazier is on the line, as well as Tiama Romero. Dr. Gail Frazier is the U.S. Minority Association Dean, and she is the verifier of our curriculum for the program, as well as Tiama Romero, who is the former assistant director of the Illinois Department of Labor. Tiama Romero, are you available right now?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see so many of my friends online today. Forgive my messy back office here. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity this afternoon to talk about apprenticeships because they are so important. I was looking at the website that the U.S. Department of Labor created to encourage organizations to register as apprenticeship programs and for individuals to find jobs. And through this initiative, I learned today anyway that 93% of the people that go through these programs actually find jobs earning $77,000 a year. It's something we definitely need to promote more in the African American community, especially as we look at most people in the United States earning $15 an hour minimum wage. It's just really not enough. But if we're talking about $20, $25, $30 an hour, that's much better. So that's what I would say open in terms of an opening statement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Gail Frazier?
Yes, God bless and greetings to everyone. I was on the phone prior to getting on, talking with Mr. Clyde, Professor Clyde, one of my colleagues in the Caribbean, and he's still having some difficulties trying to get on. So I was just trying to assist him as far as helping him, to get on, because he's still having some problems, even though I did email the link. So Sister Justina, I don't know if you're able to email him the link again. I did, but it's not working for him.
I'm working on it right now.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, as Sister Justina already introduced me, my name is Dr. Gail Frazier. I'm the National Dean for the U.S. Minority Contractors Association. And of course, we're sitting in a space where we are also working on pre-apprenticeship and workforce development programs, to assist not just older individuals, but younger individuals, because one of the things that I know is that a lot of times the focus is on the older population. My particular interest is to try to get a lot of the individuals who are either in high school or in the middle school range to start to train them and gear them towards the trades, because we already know that so many of the schools intentionally, so many schools have taken trades out of the schools. And so a lot of our youth and as well as the young adult population, they are skilled in various ways, but they haven't been trained. So that's one end. But as far as the U.S. Minority Contractors Association, we deal with a myriad of we deal with quite a few contractors, in terms of entrepreneurship, carpentry, training, different things. And we connect them with other companies within our network to assist them in doing the pre-apprenticeship work and the apprenticeship work, and also being associated with Dawson Tech, where I serve on the Highway Construction Career Training Program. So sitting in that space affords me the opportunity and affords us the opportunity to be able to do various things to assist our community of young people, as well as individuals who are presently in the trades, but they don't have the wherewithal to be able to navigate throughout it. So that's some of the things that we do. And of course, I look forward to hearing from everyone else. My colleague from the Caribbean is supposed to be getting on, because we're working also in the Caribbean, in terms of making connections and helping with our programs even there, to make sure that all of our people are trained and skilled in the areas that they're working in. So this is all a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's great that WIN has put this together. And for everyone who's on here, it's really a blessing, an honor, and a privilege to be on with you. So thank you very much. And Brother Mike Holmes, it's good seeing you again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, Doc, it's nice to see you. I saw your name. I said, man, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
I'm excited to hear about what you're doing down there.
Thank you. And everybody else on here, thank you so much. God bless. I'll be quiet, and I'm going to let Sister Justina take it away.
So thank you so much for introducing the program, Dr. Frazier, with the U.S. Minority Contractors Association. Dr. Frazier has been an excellent mentor in reviewing any curriculum that we put forth before it even goes to the U.S. Department of Labor, before it's approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. One of the things that, and this is actually Professor Clyde joining us now from the Caribbean.
Yes, Professor Clyde. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
No, I was just saying Professor Clyde is the one that we work with. And Professor Clyde, you made it on good because he's an outstanding individual as well. And we work together on various projects, and we're getting ready to do a great undertaking. So Professor Clyde, he's on. I'm so glad that he's made it. And thank you so much, Sister Justina, for making this possible.
Thank you, Dr. Fraser, for facilitating my entry into the forum. I have just been having some difficulties. But if I'm permitted to just quickly introduce myself and the organization, my name is Clyde Phillip. I'm speaking from Trinidad and Tobago, one of the 30 islands and states in the Caribbean. And I am involved in leading teams in the region as it relates to workforce development and skills training is concerned. We are pleased to have launched just about 1 month ago the Grassroots University, which will be an online platform. And this has been specifically set up to respond to some immediate challenges that exists in this region called CASA. And when I speak about CASA, CASA is the acronym for the Caribbean and South America. Most persons will know now that because of the recently discovered oil and gas off the coast of Guyana, this region is now becoming one of the wealthiest nations in the Western world. But the challenge that we face is that we do not have the capacity nor the capability to respond to these challenges. So that we are now quickly trying to play catch up as far as apprenticeship training, as far as workforce development is concerned. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share some views. Thank you, Dr. Fraser.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, Dr. Fraser, it should, there we go.
So, Sister Justina? Oh.
Yes.
No, I was going to say, just to piggyback off of what Professor Clyde had said, we have been diligently working to bring that university into fruition. And that is a part of the dream that Professor Clyde has had, as long as several others of us who have been working. The mindset is to come together as an entire body, Black folks working together on the continent, as well as in the Caribbean, as well as in the West, and have our own, as WIN is already established, have our own structure that we will not have to be codependent or dependent on other universities and other sources to train our people to do what we know that they can do. And we don't have to have other people to legitimize the work that we do and we've been doing for centuries. So this is a great, great, great undertaking. And we really appreciate WIN for having the vision and the foresight to be able to bring us together collaboratively to be able to address these things. So I just thank you so very much, Sister Justina. Really appreciate and applaud all the great work that WIN has been doing and will continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fraser. And I just want to say that one of the things that Brother Mike Holmes is at the table, he's a board member of the, and I want to be clear, let me unmute you, Brother Mike. Okay, there we go.
Chicago Job Council.
Yes, the Chicago
Mhm.
Job Council. So the one of the things that we have found initially that we struggled with at the table early on was applying for federal grants and making sure that we were able to follow the process. Thankfully, Congressman Davis heard the fact that there the processes weren't necessarily flowing properly on the platforms at the federal level, and he brought it to the attention of the secretary, and gave us feedback during a town hall meeting and said, hey, uh, you all should have access, because we said we don't have access. Literally, the portal opened up within by the next day. So, thankfully they were able to focus in on and address the specific issues with us having access to apply for these grants as a collaborative. And going forward, we're grateful for the congressman, to be a ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee and to understand the importance of the pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship trades programs. And just the fact that we come with the collaborative spirit to work with the colleges and universities, because they have the funding at the state level. And ultimately, the one thing that we've seen is that the colleges and universities have struggled with recruitment in the communities. We have direct access to the communities, and that's why it makes sense for us to ensure that we engage with each other's organizations and understand when these deadlines are coming, so that we are on the radar of those colleges and universities, as well as the Cook. You have the several other organizations that receive direct funding through the state as well. And that's the one thing that we want to make sure that we're at the table. And I think that that's what Dr. Frazier had been expressing.
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand the availability of these resources, and then I think one of the things that we're learning is that as a collaborative and through a collaboration, you have more of a voice in that ask, right? People respond to people when they see that there's not an individual, but there's say a whole community asking for something as opposed to one person. And I think you also, we're learning that, as opposed to, when you talk about a massive kind of initiative, as Dr. Frazier and Professor Phillips is talking about, then you can focus more on the level of resources that you need to be successful in these efforts, if in fact you can present a collaborative ask. I mean, people have to understand that if people respond to situations where they feel like they have to respond, and if the Black community as a collective, makes an ask as a community, then the response is different, as opposed to just being, individuals asking for stuff.
Thank you so much for pointing out that fact, because one of the conversations that we recently had with the group was the fact that regionally, when we apply for these grants, or in multi-state, the one thing is ensuring that we have the information, that all of the programs are ready to go, and that we're simply able to immediately apply, because the windows and the time frames for the applications are so short. And one of the key things is ensuring that you have a fiscal agent. So the fact that we have a reputable fiscal agent on the line with the Black Community Providers Network, the point of this call is to ensure that new organizations that don't necessarily have the data, that are building their data for their pilot programs, are able to work collaboratively in sync with organizations that already have those measurable outcomes when applying for these grants. And the fact that the funders see the collaborative spirit, and the fact that we have that direct access. So, Mike, can you give some tips to these organizations on just just simple things like tracking with sign-in sheets, how important that information is, gathering the data as they have their meetings, so that when they come to the table for funding purposes, they have something to come to the table with the collaborative as we plug in the information for the funding.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've been working on, and I would invite everyone on the call to visit our website at bcpnillinois.com, and you can see there's a training calendar on our website. We spent a lot of time in, trying to develop a training calendar which allows and offers community-based organizations the opportunity to strengthen their organization, to develop the skills that the workers need, to be able to understand the nuances and what the relationship should be with these funders, right? I think the basic things that we see people getting sort of pushback on when they are seeking these resources is that's the structural kind of presentation that these funders are looking for. Speaking from on the state side, the state has went so far as to require specifically a profile on each agency to be able to access state funds, and that's called GATA. So the Grant Accountability Transparency Act is legislation that they created to require every agency in the state of Illinois, if you in fact wanted to be funded with a grant from Illinois, you had to meet that criteria. And that's really, having people apply for that DUNS number and having people get on SAMS.gov and people, putting structural things like bylaws and things of that nature, if you got a board of director and meeting some of the criteria. But what we've had the ability to do is say to the funder, particularly state agencies, that a lot of that requires work and money for organizations to even meet that criteria. So where do they get that from? So if they don't have it, one of the reasons why we think we can help organizations, we can provide you with at least the technical assistance to develop that, almost at no cost, because we can just help you get online. We can help you register at SAMS.gov. We can help you meet some of that GATA criteria so that you can at least apply for those funds. And then we can kind of walk you through some of the execution of a grant if you in fact get a grant. Right now, the state has been funding a lot of new organizations, and we found that those organizations still struggle with the capacity to execute these contracts, which we're trying to provide as much assistance as we can to them to help with that. But those are some of the things that people have to be aware of, and a lot of it is really, if you have an organization, then a lot of that stuff you may already have, but you just got to be mindful of specific things that specific funders may ask for from a structural standpoint.
And Sister Justina, can I say something, please?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate what Mr. Holmes had said. We really appreciate what you're saying as far as that. That's where the collaborative is so critical. And unfortunately, I think I'm not going to say unfortunately, fortunately, I believe we're getting a greater revelation as a people that we have to work together because this individualistic mindset in terms of trying to do your own thing, it doesn't work like that. Right. When we come together, just like what Professor Clyde was talking about, that's one of the things that we're talking about. This is what we're doing in that space as far as coming together and creating our own stuff. And, with the U.S. Minority Contractors Association, all of the contractors, we come together and that makes us one body. So when we're one body, how many contracts can we do with one body? Right. And the key is as well, is that we don't have to have the whole pie. a portion of the pie can work.
That's right.
When and so that's the thing where
Right.
we really trying to get a clear understanding about is that we don't have to have it. I would always say that it only takes one contract, one good contract, and you set. Now I'm not suggesting that you only apply for one contract, but the reality is that we have to work in collaboration. And when we work in collaboration, we become something to be reckoned with. So when we have collaborations, even on the continent of Africa, even on the continent of Africa, I'm in the process of going to Africa, going to 4 or 5 countries, using my own money now, because that's something also that we have to factor in. Sometimes we have to use our own money to do stuff until things click in. But it's for trades, mission, and all of the other things that go along with it. But we have to really begin to start thinking outside of the box, because we limit ourselves when we just stay cocooned. And I'm sure you all know that, but I just have to say that for the listening audience, because some of us still haven't gotten the revelation. Mr. Holmes had always done an excellent job, even when he was over the Illinois African American Family Commission. So I know this is redundant to him, because we have that same mindset as far as us coming together and working together. And so those of us who are on the line right now, we can strategize and make plans and so forth, and utilize the services that Brother Michael is talking about right now to build a greater base. And then we, based on our skill sets and so forth and so on, can just do such wonderful, phenomenal things. So, like I said, I'm primarily saying it to the listening audience, because that's where we've really been missing it as a people. Everybody else knows how to do it. You even got the migrants coming in and they start their thing. So, if we don't get this revelation now, we're going to have some serious problems down the road. That's all I say. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I want to just kind of make a comment to build on what you just talked about. One of the things when we was at the commission, and right prior to leaving the commission, we held a press conference, and we asked the governor's office at that particular time, just on the percentage of the population in this state. We asked for a percentage of the operating budget, right? And so I think at that particular time, we was registering like 14% of the population of the state. And we sort of took the operating budget at that time was like $42 billion. And we just said, give us 14% of the 42 billion. And 14% of the 42 billion came out to be a little over $4 billion. So $4 billion was pushed into the Black community. We could be doing all this work and have the resources to ensure the success of this work. You know what I mean? So to your point, that's exactly, I mean, and then you think about it. If we were only asking for 14%, look how much money we was leaving on the table for them to do whatever they do.
Yes, I do remember the African American Family Commission days, and we definitely were at the table fighting. And there have been thankfully, multiple African American family commissions that have spawned as a result of the work that the Illinois African American Family Commission, and I have to say kudos to Sister Helen Wakefield, Brother Mike Holmes, Attorney John Carter, Sister Helen Wakefield and Attorney Carter were at the forefront of getting the Nebraska African American Family Commission passed, as well as the Virginia African American Family Commission passed. So the spirit of Mike Holmes replicating and scaling throughout the nation and building upon a national platform for the African American Family Commission. Please, Ms. Romero.
We've been listening to organizations talk about finding jobs for people in our communities, but we also understand the academic perspective on this, meaning that a lot of our people are not ready for jobs. And what I'm saying is that a lot of people can't read and can't write. I'm sure that some of you aren't surprised by that a lot of folks literally can't read and write. And I think that we need to put some emphasis on creating more reading and writing type programs for people in the community. And I also want to note that we have to figure out and say, okay, yeah, yes, African Americans, we want programs specific for African Americans. The challenge is Congress will not create programs specifically for African Americans, or they just won't. And I wish it was different, but what they do, that's what we call reparations. But what we can do is look at census tracts and say, okay, Mike, especially in your work on a national level, these are this, we need to do every program we're focused on related to census tracts. Because if you get that program in a department, federal agency, or you get it in Congress, they're going to stop you dead in your tracks if you say African American. I don't know why. We create programs for Latinos simply by saying it should be bilingual. For a Latino program to be bilingual, it's just like us saying, let's look at census tracts. We have to figure out how to work around some of the challenges. And I would just encourage you, I don't know if all of your organizations, but I know that we need to focus. One of our next level of focus should be specifically reading and math. Technology is definitely the one of the fastest growing occupation outside of healthcare. And you definitely need reading and math. A lot of our kids just can't do it, even grown-ups. We find that people come into our office and they can't fill out the privacy form to allow us to help them because they can't read or write. And you don't want to embarrass people, so you have to figure out programs to um, um, help that situation. One of the things I learned from unions is when I asked them why they don't have as many African Americans in their programs, they said basically a lot of folks can't read and do math. And I don't know if you find that to be true. Or is it just people that's talking to me?
So, what I can say from experience, being back in 2012, 2013, recruiting for one of the West Side's first pre-apprenticeship trades programs in advanced manufacturing and construction trades, construction utilities trades, I assessed about 500 people in the community. And for the 500, I had 50 qualified participants according to the program administrator. So there's a fine line between what the state and the federal government will allow as far as enrollment and entrance versus what the program education director of education, what the administrators say are the thresholds for entrance into the program. For me, if somebody was reading at the 6th grade level and the admissions requirement, according to the program administrator, was 9th grade, I would have allowed that person into the program because that person, based on the assessment, already had a background in construction work. All they wanted was the simple certification. And I had to turn them away. These are folks who came from the West Side, who lived on the West Side of Chicago. But one of the things that I found is that if you don't, you have to be connected to the community directly. One of the things that we're seeing is that funders live outside of the community. So again, working with those funders, with our people who are already on the ground, who understand the needs of the community and can directly speak to the community and engage and recruit the community, that makes the difference. One of the things, thankfully, with the National Apprenticeship Trades programs, we have the option and opportunity to go based on the guidelines of the U.S. Department of Labor. So if the U.S. Department of Labor says, well, we require drug testing and light driver's licenses for the truck heavy load and CDL training program, well, we have to comply with that naturally because it's a requirement. It's not an option. However, for let's say the substance abuse the substance abuse apprenticeship program that is 1 year competency based, there is no requirement for drug testing. That's an option. There is no requirement for a high school diploma. That is an option. However, if that person wanted to follow the pathway from the apprenticeship trades program, substance abuse counselor, to become an actual state registered certified counselor, then they would follow the pathway with their journeyman card. Upon completion, they would have enough credit hours at the university level to apply for enrollment into that university and then follow the pathway to their bachelor's degree. And with that bachelor's degree, they can then follow the pathway to their master's and become a registered licensed therapist or counselor at the state level. So the point of the pre-apprenticeship and the apprenticeship trades pathways are to guide the career pathways for that person. And it is accelerated. And yes, to your point, Tiama, a person has to be able to read fluently and write fluently and understand and do math fluently. And that's where we have the wraparound social service programs through the Black Community Providers Network, because we do have those educators on the ground like Sister Audrey and Dr. Gail Frazier who already have the curriculum for that.
But I would say, and I appreciate all of the work that everybody is doing. It's just not enough. It's pervasive. And we're going to end up being in the next generation, it's going to be a next generation of people like us that got degrees, got jobs. But everybody else is going to be can't read and can't do math. And we can't afford, as another generation of Black people, we can't afford it. I am going to recommend to the congressman, and I know he has been talking about it himself for a while, that the next round of community project funding, we're going to focus in on reading and math programming. We have to set the stage for that. We have to talk about that. I appreciate this program. We need to, on our level, on a congressional level, talk to labor about creating more reading and math programs, make them pervasive in our community, just pervasive. Imagine all of the people that are coming out of the prison system, third grade reading level, 1 in 4 in these communities where I live in Austin, and other people live in North Lawndale and Inglewood. 1 in 4 has a background, can't read, can't do math. And then we expect these people to apply for these jobs, and they get frustrated at us because they know already they can't even apply for it. They can do it, but they can't read the application. They can't do 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 2 is 4 like we learned to do. I mean, we all here old enough to know that we had to learn that. Our multiplication tables. If you couldn't do it, you had to stand up with books on your hand. I know that's corporal punishment.
But that's to your point.
And
that's to your point. The school system, I've worked in the school system, Dr. Frazier, Audrey, during the 50 plus schools that were closed at that time. And let's be clear, we advocated for those level 1 schools. The reason why I wound up homeschooling my own son, as some of you all know, because I did not want to place him in that prison pipeline. It's just that simple. So the truth of the matter is, yes, I've worked with parents, teaching them and training them. Simple Google apps that are accessible on the phone and via the computer. And some of the parents could not read the screen to set up their email addresses. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that we do need are those ESL programs. We need those bridge programs for those parents with that side by side. And that comes from, yes, the congressman can absolutely advocate for community schools, because that community school side by side learning model allows the parents and the community and the family members in that household to come into the schools and learn through those certifications to obtain their high school diplomas, to get those pre-apprenticeship trade certifications. We also currently offer free Google certifications. And to your point, Tiama, they are self-paced, yet they're technical. Those questions can be technical and wordy. And if you are not at the proper reading level, you may not get through that 6-month, 4-month, or 6-month Google certification. But when you do, it's a life changer. You're
Of course it
starting out
is.
at 6 figures as a UX designer, as a
I
project
understand that,
manager.
and I appreciate that because I've been telling my family and friends about it for years, and now they sort of figure out that they need to do it. But when I ride down Madison Street
Right.
any morning,
Right.
those boys out there, they're the ones that should be
Right.
told they can make $100,000 a year doing the same thing that they doing there, but doing it for something else.
Right.
But they can't read and write. And if we don't, and math, and if we don't really think about that too, I know this is a side issue, but I can't talk about technology without talking about this. And these boys and girls are lost. I don't want to give up my people.
Right.
And
right.
just, I know you and I have had so many conversations about this. I don't know how I'm just saying, let's add this to our table too. This reading, writing, and math. I don't know how we get them to the table. It's not good enough for us to just have good jobs.
Right.
It's just not good enough. I grew up poor, and as poverty could be. So I know that having resources can help because they help me. We just have to help those that can do this program, but also maybe we need to call these reading and math programs apprenticeships for reading and math. Maybe we need to rebrand it.
Mm-hmm.
Call it a reading and math, reading and arithmetic and math, reading, writing, and math apprenticeship programs.
We can tailor the curriculum to align with the U.S. Department of Labor's requirements.
Congress give them the money.
I think even taking it a step further.
Find a loophole for me. Find a loophole for me, so I can go to them with it.
Right. How would you integrate that concept even at an elementary school level? Because I think what Tiama is speaking to is that we don't start, ensuring that our kids, our children, are being given the opportunity to learn these skills. Then all these other stuff really don't make any difference.
STEM.
Can I say something about that, please?
Yes, please.
And it's to your point, Ms. Romero, as well as Mr. Holmes. This is the reason why we are working and advocating and doing the particulars to establish, like what Sister Justina, Miss Winfrey, has said about the homeschooling and the co-ops and the micro schools, because it's necessary for our young people to be out of these systems. These government institutions, they don't teach our young people what they need to learn. And unfortunately, this is not disparaging anybody or anything like that. But the reality is, having taught in the school system, I taught primarily in a Christian environment, in Christian education, although I have taught, in the public school settings and stuff like that. But my primary focus was when I was in that private school setting, I was able to teach the children what they needed to learn. Okay. And I didn't have the bureaucratic garbage that goes along with, you got to teach this and you got to teach that. Being a mother and a grandmother, it's essential that our children have to learn. So I'm right with you, Ms. Romero, when you were talking about that, because we can't be content with status quo anything. They're subpar on so many levels. They're totally disinterested in school, but a lot of them are not disinterested in school, but school is not engaging. Okay. Right. School does not teach what they need to learn. And so to your point about the reading and the math, I have little cousins who can't read, but they're in the school being passed on to grade after grade after grade after grade after grade. And so this is why we're saying we have to have our own stuff. Just like how in the time with Booker T. Washington, when folks didn't want to integrate and everything, they wanted separate. Let it be separate. Okay, let it be separate so we can teach our own children what they need to learn. Teach these young folk what they need to learn. They need to be in an environment where it's conducive to learning. This stuff that they're getting called school today is not conducive to learning. You got all types of stuff going on in these schools right now. And so when you start talking about that, you really hit something on the inside of me, because no, we have to be about the business of creating our own stuff, and that we don't have to beg anybody, because it's enough of us to pull our own resources together. That's the problem that I have, is that we've been so used to begging for some doggone scraps that they don't want to give us anyway, that we leave our young people behind. And it's like, no, let's do what we have to do, just like with the homeschooling network and so forth, the other things. Sister Justina, she knows all about this. And her son, as a result of that, is doing well. Justin is doing very well. When I was in the private school setting, my students, even the ones who are the lowest of the lowest, fared a whole bunch better than the ones who are going to these government schools right now. So we have to be intentional about creating the programs necessary, and we can do the pre-apprenticeship programs. We can have tiered instruction, and we can deal with them, smaller class sizes, and deal with them. We have to be creative in the teaching process for our children. This garbage that they have called school, and I'm just saying, I mean, whoever's on there get offended, I'm sorry, that's the way it is as far as I'm concerned. We got to pull our children up out of those systems that don't work for them, and they never did, and they weren't designed to work for them. Back in the day when I went to school, things were different. It's a whole different setup now. We're dealing with a whole different type of animal, and we're dealing with a whole different type of parameters that they have in the classroom that's not conducive to their growth or their learning. So when you start talking about things about reading and literacy, math, that's definitely key, but we have the wherewithal as a people. It's enough of us to make something happen, that we don't have to be begging every Tom, Dick, and Harry to help us do what we can do ourselves. And that's the position that I sit on. Thank you.
I'd like to make one suggestion regarding solutions. Being a former probation officer and growing up with a mother that could not read or write. And so I really don't want to hear, I really don't go off his excuse. My mom couldn't read and write. She grew up in a town of Sumner where they had a trial for Emmett Till. She grew up in deep. So I just learned fair is not an option. So we really got to look at our daycares. They're actually our senators were able to legislate the parents $7,000 where they put their kids in private school, or they can go to public school. What I'm suggesting that they take that money, and there's money in every state, and they give it to the daycare. The daycare stayed open during the pandemic. Everybody else was closed, but the daycares are open. Most daycares are compliant with the U.S. school program. Most of them have someone with there, and we have so many retired teachers in all our communities. And so that K through sixth grade can be within our daycare. And like the sister said, like Dr. said, we start educating our own. We start educating, implementing our own curriculum. The money is there. We just gotta use our intelligence and come with a strategy.
You're kind of breaking up, Brother William, for some reason. But yes, so with the social service wraparound programs that plug in, that's the one thing that even on the West Side, we do have a daycare providers network, thankfully. And that's something that you might want to consider organizing with your platform on the radio, because the one thing that we've seen with that daycare providers network is that they're able to share resources through the process, and they're able to do exactly what we're discussing, seek funding collaboratively, along with having those the proper and necessary trainings for their participants and vendors to ensure that they're they're meeting the threshold certifications.
Right. Well, and that's the first stage. That's the first stage, because our children aren't going to school yet. They're not going to public schools yet. When they go to public schools, our parents got to participate in PTAs. we got to get to know our teachers so they don't get passed along. I think the equation is love. We don't love our children like my mama loved me.
Mhm.
And I think that's the foundation that we got to get at. We got to start loving our children, so we'll make sure that they get the education that they are. That
Mhm.
my mom could read and write, but she made sure I was able to read and write. Period. And so that came from my mama that couldn't, and so that came out of nothing. And so if she could do it out of Sumner, Mississippi, then we show us Yankees should be able to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the one thing with the current programs that are in place, Workforce Innovation Network has actually partnered with Trey the Chocolate Jock, a former radio producer out of Chicago. He's actually a national producer over several networks. He was unable to join the call today because he's traveling. But on the website, wininnovators.com, you will find a youth pre-apprenticeship trades program for youth ages 12 through 18. And the goal of that program is to teach youth radio and digital media. They actually receive a pre-apprenticeship certification, which is a pathway to an actual apprenticeship. So by 16 years old, they can enter the apprenticeship trades lawfully, the program. And each apprentice in the apprenticeship trades programs are paid a progressive wage based on the industry and and for the most part, the state minimum wage. But to that point, we align those youth, getting them at a young age in elementary school with a pathway to not just a job, but an actual career. In addition to each certification, the way that we're thankful to have positioned these programs, with each certification, when you complete a project management certification, or when you complete, let's say, the IT specialist, the various levels to that certification, you are awarded college credits. Those certifications equate to up to 15 college credits per certification. Okay. You can take that journeyman card again based on that apprenticeship trades completion. And also, let me take a step back. The pre-apprenticeship programs, it's a shorter time frame and just a synopsis. And this is for the public and the viewers of an apprenticeship, just to see if it's something that you really want to engage in and participate in. The pre-apprenticeship pathway offers certifications, and we do within the network align those pre-apprentices with employer partners in the industry so that they can begin working. Okay. And Sister Audrey, would you like to go ahead and speak to that point? Because I know you currently have a project management cert.
Oh, yes. Thank you guys. So with the project management certification piece, we were able to get an MOU with Hire 360. And through Hire 360, of course, you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. But what's most interesting is that they have partnered with different businesses so that when the students are finished with their training or the certificate, they'll be able to work alongside some of those businesses that are along in their apprenticeship program. So it does work, but we just need to continue to have a pipeline of where we can connect with those students that are in high school right now or not in high school, and making sure that we are continuing that partnership with Hire 360 to make sure that these students are part of some type of big brother, big sister type of network, because they don't see and they don't get it. So this is a great opportunity where we can continue the process of, you know, having a project management certification, which my organization pretty much reached out to St. Augustine, and they agreed to work with me because I said I don't see it enough in my community. So I bridged out to them, and I also reached out to ComEd to bring along their apprenticeship program. So that still needs to be worked out. But we want to be able to get with some of these companies where they are going to actually place them. And ComEd is definitely one, and Hire 360 is definitely another segue for our students to get the training and also be partnered with a company. Thank you.
So one of the things that we had briefly discussed before, and Audrey, I know you were at the table, Dr. Frazier, Brother Mike, as with the organization being the fiscal agent, several of the federal grants that had came to the table, Build was one of them. And that was mainly focused on youth apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship trades, and construction trades. And Dr. Frazier, thankfully, has collaborated with us on that. So one of the things that we definitely want to just make everyone aware is that these timelines and these deadlines, the beginning of the fiscal year is coming up. January will be here soon. Pull your data together. It's going to be key, making sure that you have that data in order so that when we reach out and say, hey, your organization is the fit for this program, we'd like to include you in this funding opportunity when we apply through the RFP. We don't want to have to pull the data together for the organizations. We want the organizations to be in position to have been tracking their information just through basic things like sign-in sheets. Every single meeting, you have a sign-in sheet. Somebody's keeping a record and an archive of that information. Because again, when we come to the table with the compliance part of it, even after your organization receives the funding, somebody has to be accountable for replying and giving the feedback and completing the surveys and ensuring that those participants are tracked and that they're actually learning and completing the programs timely. And that's where this network comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Clyde, did you want to say something, sir?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me. And as I sit here listening to the rich discourse that is taking place, I cannot help asking myself, and of course, through you, Chair, from Dr. Fraser, to what extent can we seek your organization's assistance in a major crisis that is happening in CASA? And I did explain what is CASA. CASA is the acronym, the Caribbean and South America. The 30 islands and states in the Caribbean, from Belize in Central America in the north, all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago in the south. That's the 30 islands in the Caribbean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. And the 13 countries on the South American continent, from Venezuela in the north to southern Argentina in the south. So we are speaking about 30 and 13. It is 43 jurisdictions that we are engaged as such. And I'm sure that you are all aware that Guyana is in the center, both physically geographically located between the South American continent and the Caribbean. And also, it's in the center of attraction, because as far as World Bank reports, as far as the IMF reports are concerned, Guyana now is fast becoming the financial capital of the Western world. I repeat, Guyana is fast becoming the financial capital of the Western world. ExxonMobil, the giant USA oil and gas company, is the major player in this region. And ExxonMobil has begun to complain of a serious challenge that we are faced here as it relates to apprenticeship. Please allow me to just give a quick background so that we'll put things in perspective. Despite global warming and climate change and all of these real issues, the fact is oil and gas will be here for some time still. That's a fact. ExxonMobil is involved in deep sea exploration out in the Atlantic Ocean, and it is estimated that for the next 10 years, there will be active activities in this region. ExxonMobil has made it quite clear that that its goal must be satisfied in this region. So much so that half of their operation, half of ExxonMobil operation from Houston has now been relocated in this part of the world. As I speak, Chair, more than, I would say, as of today, more than 75 US organizations, US and both Canadian organizations, are being relocated down in this region. Why? Because of lack of certain skill set. And the rate of change as far as technology is concerned is so quick that we are unable to respond to the needs that is required. Hence the reason, and I'm very happy when someone a while ago made the point as it relates to micro school. I like that. I think it was Dr. Fraser, because the truth is we have recognized and realized that our school system is not fit for purpose as far as the current workforce is concerned. Yes, perhaps back in our days, and when I say our days, let me speak for myself, because the good Lord has allowed me to have gone around the sun almost 70 times. So I have been around for a long time. And the school system that, of course, I was privileged to attend really has no relevance to the workforce now. And we have to be in a position where we reinvent, where we establish that particular system that is responsive to the youth. So I am quite happy when Dr. Fraser, I think she was the person who talked about micro school, because we are now going to encourage in our workforce developmental scenario the whole concept of micro-credentialing. Micro-credentialing. Let me give you for example, as such. We have been accustomed here in the Caribbean to sit in a classroom for 2 to 3 years to pursue a particular technical and vocational subject as such, whether it is plumbing, electrical installation, air conditioning, it does not matter. You are in the classroom for 2 or 3 years as such. Unfortunately, as of today, that system does not work. The young people really do not have any time to sit in a classroom for 2 or 3 years to become qualified in any subject. They want to be exposed to specific relevant competencies, and they can now be acquire some sort of qualification in that area. So much so that we have now developed in the region the concept of the CVQ, and CVQ is the acronym for Caribbean Vocational Qualification, CVQ. And there are 5 levels we have established. That's CVQ level 1, CVQ level 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if someone has a CVQ level 1 qualification, it says that this person is competent to operate at a tradesman's level. Someone at a CVQ level 2, that person has the competence to operate at a craftsman level. CVQ level 3, that person has the competence to operate at a technician's level. CVQ level 4, that person has the competence to operate at a technologist level. And CVQ level 5, that person has the competence to operate at an engineering level as such. What this means, again, is this. The person who is at the CVQ level 1, which is, of course, is the lowest level, we have even recognized, as some of the previous speakers says, that there's a lack for certain basic numeracy and literacy competencies. Yes, It's not only in the US, even here in CASA, a number of persons cannot really read and write, but they are very good as far as understanding certain concepts. So we have begun to design now certain what we call micro-credentialing, small units, bit size, that they can acquire on their own time at their own pace. So, and again, as I close here on this point to give the example, if someone needs to have a competence in how to fix a particular water mains or water tap or whatever it is, this will be broken down into bit size. And as they acquire the competence in the particular units, they will be given their respective certificates. And one of the things that we have observed, when someone who cannot read or write get a certificate for a particular competence they have acquired, it's a big deal for them. It's a big deal, and it encouraged them now to go on further as such. So I'm just agreeing with some of the previous speakers said that, look, we have to redesign, repurpose our school system fit for purpose. Now, let me send out an SOS to the team here that we are looking for at least 150,000. I repeat, 150,000 skilled persons in order to respond to the opportunities in Guyana right now. 150,000 skilled persons. We are also looking for at least 350 e-consultants. E-consultants, and I'm stressing on the word E because, as we know now, time and distance are meaningless quantities now. One can stay in the comfort of their home and provide an advice, a recommendation, a suggestion, or a solution as such. We are looking for about 350 or so e-consultants in order to assist this crisis that now exists in the region now. Having said that, and I would have intimidated this to Dr. Fraser in the past, I will be pleased if a similar session like what we have now can be hosted in this region as early as possible, because we will want to get our several similarly poised organizations throughout the 43 states to come on board in order to respond. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to say something.
And Dr. Fraser, I'm not sure if you're available to respond. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, someone had knocked on my door. But yes, so as Professor Clyde has been saying, and this is something that we've been working on, when I was sharing with you that we have come together in collaboration to do this work. Mm-hmm. And not only are we doing the Caribbean areas and everything, but we're also branching out to Africa. And of course, USA, we're part of that as well, because our whole focus has to be on our own people. And that's why when Professor Clyde was talking about the micro-credentialing and all of those kinds of things, this is what we have been working on for the last month or so. And so the reality comes in is that when all of us come together with our skill sets, things don't become impossible anymore. Mm-hmm. I believe someone already mentioned about the veteran teachers and so forth. We have so many contractors who are retired. We have so many individuals who have an array of skill sets that mm-hmm. all we have to do is come together. And that's the whole picture right there. We don't work in a vacuum anymore. That day has passed. When we come together, and Sister Justina, you already know that because we've been working together, forever. Mr. Holmes and the great work is, we said, the Illinois African American Family Commission and all of the other great works that everyone on here has been doing. We have to now use that to benefit our own people. And so one of the major problems, like I had said before, is that we don't have to be begging folks to do this for us. We got to get out of that massa mentality. Okay. And those who are in government, it has to be intentional on the inside of them to make sure that they now start putting those monies where they need to be if they're genuinely concerned about our success as a people. But I am saying this, that if they don't, it is not going to stop what we're doing. It's not going to stop what we're doing, because we know now that we're in this time, and I'm going to put on my minister's hat, okay, where divine providence is working on our behalf. Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of trap or pit or whatever the enemy tries to put out there to destroy us. Okay, it's not going to work. So I'm just putting that out there in the atmospheric realm so that they know every plan, every trap, everything that they have already put together to try to destroy us will not work. And so, as Professor Clyde has been saying, we have a group of individuals already in the Caribbean. We have a group of individuals on the continent of Africa, and we're pulling things together. Okay. And like he talked about in Guyana, all of the resources there, it's a zillion resources on the continent of Africa. And I'm so grateful that many of our brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa, they have become enlightened to this. So now the West has to catch up and say, look, we're not going to continue to have to be running after the change and the pennies and the quarters that somebody's throwing us. We don't need any doggone scraps. We got enough of us to do the work. So, every time we talk about this, I get excited. I don't mean any harm to anybody, but this is who I am. And this is where I stand in this space, that we are not going to continue to go around being in bondage and under tribute, begging folks to give us a dime and a quarter. Okay. We have some excellent, skilled craftsmen, and we are willing to do the work that has to be done. And I'm sure you all agree that we will do this work. So that's my comment, Ms. Winfrey.
Justina, can I ask a question real quick? Professor Phillips, you talked about the micro credentialing, which I think is a great idea, and also a great solution to addressing the issues around prepping and preparing people to move into these gaps that are presenting themselves as business comes in and try to snatch up resources, right? The question I had, though, was, are these competencies developed as a way to address the gaps that are being presented, from these corporations, I guess, whomever is coming in and requiring the skill sets of individuals to do this work?
Excellent question. Michael. Just permit me to just quickly comment on Dr. Fraser's remarks as such. And Dr. Listening to and hearing Dr. Fraser's passion perhaps reminds me of myself here in the region, because I may be considered to be a Dr. Fraser in the region, because my attitude is exactly as what she has explained, that we are not going to ask the government for anything. We are just going to invite the governments to partner with what we are doing. I repeat, we are not begging or asking any government for anything. Governments are politicians. They are not technocrats, and they need our help. We are just inviting them to be on board as such. Hence the reason of our 5 watchwords. And these 5 watchwords are: 1, collaboration; 2, articulation; 3, rationalization; 4, harmonization; and 5, standardization. These are our 5 watchwords as such. And although each word may have their own particular meaning, it means generally all of us coming together on the same page, on the same hymn book as such. They cannot stop us. They cannot stop us. And it's for too long in the region here, we have been at the whims and fancy of the politician, and they will give us what they feel. We are saying no. You see, we have to understand something. COVID-19 is really a blessing in disguise. In my lectures, I usually make the point to know, and sometimes I am misunderstood, that natural disasters are good things. Hurricanes and earthquakes and all of these things are good things. Of course, these things cause loss of life and property. But my perspective is that when natural disasters happen, it's an opportunity for us to build it back better. I repeat, when natural disasters occur, it's an opportunity for engineering. Well, let me say my background is engineering. Engineers build things back better. That's what we do as such. COVID-19 has actually exposed a massive chasm in the region here between the haves and the have-not, or the rich and the poor. COVID-19 has exposed a massive chasm. And we are in the process now of trying to see how we can close that chasm. And we are not going to wait on the politicians again. There is a growing network that is becoming more and more powerful to cause change. So I thought I would just comment on Dr. Fraser's rich input there. To your question, as far as the relevance, in fact, if I can get your question again, the relevance of the micro-credentialing.
I was just asking if how does the competencies relate to the skill sets that's being, I guess, asked for as you guys continue to develop and go after the resources that's becoming available in the region.
Excellent again, and let me give you a for example. And again, let me just take for example plumbing, and of course it can be related to anything. We have been accustomed to standard plumbing, a standard plumbing course at our technical school. So you sit in the classroom and you learn the standard stuff, the technical maths, the technical English, standards. However, we have recognized and realized that how plumbing is done in several regions in this part of the world, it is different. Even though the basic concept remains the same, but the application, how it's done, is different. So what we have decided to do is to really use what we call the indigenous practices, what people understand, what makes sense, what is available, what are the resources available in that community, and we are going to achieve the same end. It doesn't, see, we have to understand that whatever practice you use, once the end goal is acquired, that is what matters. So, for example, in the region, I said that there are 30 islands and states. I'm speaking from the island of Trinidad and Tobago. How we do plumbing practices in Trinidad and Tobago is not exactly how it's done in the island of St. Vincent because of certain strategic resources there. Whilst indeed the basic maths and the basic science and all of these things will be of standard, but the application, and here is where the micro-credentialing comes in place now. I need to make this point. From March 31st, 2024, we are going to implement the CSME, and CSME means Caribbean Single Market and Economy. It is it's similar to the European Union, the free movement of goods and services and personnel throughout Europe. It's the same concept here we have in the Caribbean. In order to implement the CSME, it means that a particular common language must be spoken. It means that we have to pay respect to how things are done in a particular community. I cannot go, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I cannot go to St. Vincent and tell them what they're doing is wrong. I will be wrong. What is important is whether it works. And this is where now the micro-credentialing comes into play. Fit for purpose, fit for purpose. And that person who would have acquired his skill and would have been awarded his unit award in that particular skill in plumbing, he will now build a number of units and credits so that he can now get his CVQ level 1, which is a standard thing. So again, I'm just using plumbing as an example, but it can be throughout the construction. Let me again quickly make this point. Our education system in the region came from the UK, came from the British. Okay, so most of our qualifications have been British based. Again, like Dr. Fraser said, we have recognized the time for change. How construction is done in the UK is not how it's done in Trinidad and Tobago or in the Caribbean. How the houses are built, etc., etc., etc. So we are now in the process, because we are now in the Atlantic hurricane zone. Every year, from June the 1st to November 30th, is the hurricane season in this region as such. And because, of course, of climate change, global warming, the hurricanes are becoming more fierce and all of these things. So better strategies are now being implemented in each of the islands, providing training, providing certain concept which is fit for purpose. For example, in Barbados is a very flat island, very flat, compared to Dominica, which is very mountainous. How the structures are built in Barbados is different to how the structures will be built in the island of Dominica, even though the basic math or the basic science will remain the same. So we have to now, as I said, we are now micro-credentialing individuals in their community, fit for purpose. So we are also, and to borrow Dr. Fraser's word, a phrase now, we are now going to create micro schools. I like that. Micro schools for micro-credentialing.
I like that. That's great. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
And just to the point of the curriculum alignment, one of the things that we are in position to do here in the States is ensure that the pre-apprenticeship programs, again, are aligned with the pathways for the apprenticeship trades programs. And the great thing about that, having that overlap, is that at the international level, you know, having Tiama Romero on the call, they, you know, are able to navigate opportunities throughout the diaspora to open trades opportunities, to tap into those trades opportunities. And I know that Dr. Fraser is very familiar with that process as well. Dr. Fraser, did you want to speak to that?
And that's absolutely correct. This is where we intersect, you know, and that's the part that's so wonderful as far as what we're putting together here, because we intersect at that point, Sister Justina, what you said with Ms. Romero and the congressmen and those who sit in that space that can put these programs together and help undergird what we're doing. And so as we come together, because I'm going to keep saying it, it's all in the collaborative work. It's all in the collaborative work. So we can easily, you know, through the congressman's office or whoever else is a government official or those who have the resources that are willing and able and desirous to help in this situation, we can open up so many doors. We can open up so many doors to close in that gap from the lower, you know, from the students where they say the population of the students can't read and so forth and so on. And then you got to look at the intergenerational component where the young learns from the older. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is how we did it in African cultures. The older taught the, you know, the elders taught the young, and bridge those gaps so that over a period of time, the gaps start to close. And that's the part that's very critical about it. The gaps then begin to close. And when the gaps start to close, then we can see the improvement and we can see the progress. We can't work in silos anymore. And so amongst the ones who are very knowledgeable in so many different areas, and then we have to factor in there are the elders who actually want to stay engaged in this process. Many times here in the West, we want to kick folks out the pasture when they get a certain age. But that's not the way it is in African culture. That's not the way it is with our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and everything. We just do the throwaways here in the West. Mm-hmm. And so just to everybody's point and the Professor Clyde, this is why we are working together. And this is the season to do this. And so because it's the season to do this, then we also have the vision, because a lot of this, what we're talking about, is divinely inspired work. Mm-hmm. It's not something that we're just coming up with. This is the season and the timing to advance and to help build and help grow and to help push our agenda. And so the only agenda, I don't have anything against anybody else, but the only agenda that I'm concerned about is the Black agenda, because we are the only ones at this juncture who have been pushed back for centuries. And, some individuals say, well, that's talking hate. I'm sorry, if that's the way you feel. But the reality is that if we don't take care of our own, we're worse than infidels and have denied the faith. So I'm in all the way. And so we're going to continue to do whatever work has to be done. And anybody who wants to collaborate with us, we want to collaborate, whether they're online, or whether they're here in this setting. We have to do the work. We don't have a choice in this matter. We don't want to lose our children, another generation, to this stuff that we see out here today. And so that's my what I would have to add, Ms. Winfrey.
May I just quickly make a comment on what I think Sister Romero would have shared when she spoke about mathematics and English and such. And yes, I support and I agree with her that actually basic mathematics, basic English, basic science are essentially fundamental in order to build any system. However, what we have recognized and realized in the region here, and it is something that we are going to really pay close attention to, is the whole matter, how we communicate. And we have recognized and realized that there are essentially, and I spoke a while ago that COVID-19 has exposed the a gap, a chasm between the haves and the have-not, or the rich and the poor. We have recognized that how the people at the lower end of the economic socio ladder communicate and do things, it is not the same as those at the upper end. Mm-hmm. So those at the upper end, of course, they will have their qualification in mathematics and English, and they speak well, and all of these things. And we may believe that the folks at the lower end who do not have the mathematics, do not know how to read, do not know how to write, but we have recognized they know how to communicate. The language that they use, they are able to communicate. And many times we have recognized that, look, certain systems that the people at the lower economic and social class, certain systems that they have are sometimes much more efficient and much more effective than those of us who are supposed to be qualified and trained. What's my point? We have to take note in understanding how the persons who we believe do not have the academic rigor and training that we do, what are the tools that they are using for effective communication, and see the extent to which that can also be embraced as far as our training is concerned. Thank you for allowing me to make this observation on what happens here in the Caribbean and what we are going to do.
To your point, Professor Clyde, that is exactly why we position most of the curriculum virtually, specifically for the CDL pre-apprenticeship, truck heavy load apprenticeship that's a one-year competency base. Anything that requires hands-on for the pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship trades programs. For case in point, the construction trades program component. It's a hybrid. As long as we have a work site, we can send the youth out to begin to work on those programs. However, they still have to, from their phones, they have the option to go onto the app that we provide for them through the curriculum that's online to complete the competencies and the required competencies so that they can acquire their diplomas and stackable certifications. So to your point earlier, we allow stackable certifications. So again, as they stack those certifications, they're only building on not just their competencies and their qualifications, but also their college credit hours that equate to degrees ultimately. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. We are definitely in position to align that curriculum to make sure that those employer partners, that we do outreach to those employer partners. Dr. Frazier has a strong background in working on those construction job sites, being the foreman and the leadership, and forgive me for not using the correct terminology, Dr. Frazier, please jump in. But the key thing is that outside of just the reading and math, you are absolutely right and on point, Professor Clyde. Through the curriculum and the online hybrid training program that we have accessible, the participants can use their phones to complete those certifications online as well. Dr. Frazier?
So what Ms. Winfrey is saying is absolutely correct. We've been sitting in this space for a long time, you know, as Professor Clyde, he's an engineer. I'm a civil engineer and everything, as well as a construction project management manager. But my doctorate is in education. So it blends all of those particulars that we need to make sure that the individuals are on track. And because of Ms. Winfrey's ability to pull things together in such a phenomenal way. You know, we've painstakingly had worked together to get this thing that is approved through the U.S. Labor Department, and everybody can't do that, but because of her genius and her craft, she's able to do those things. So to the point of this, just based on the few of us who's on here today, that just goes to show what we can do when we work together and we put our minds together and we put our own resources together. It's just a testament to what we can do as a people. And the thing is, as you said, Professor Clyde, is that now since we don't have anything that's bridging us or keeping us away, since we're now you know, we're using the Zooms, we're using StreamYard, we're using other mechanisms. We can do so many things. And again, when we talk about our own certifications and creating those things that are going to be proven to be excellent, okay, it's already proven to be excellent because the individuals who are working with that, they operate in the spirit of excellence, and we bring all of our skills and talents and gifts and so forth to the table, and we make sure that everyone who's participating in it on whatever level they are on, they will become successful. And so that's the whole thing about the pre-apprenticeship, the workforce development, the apprenticeship programs. And so it would behoove the politicians, it would behoove them to get on board with what we're doing, okay? Because we're the ones, and I'm talking about us, those of us on here and those who are really working in this particular field, it behooves the politicians to want to connect with us because we're going, the train is already moving. It's already moving. So thank you, Ms. Winfrey. We appreciate this opportunity to be able to share. And all of you who are on here, we are really grateful because you all are doing a wonderful work. You wouldn't be on here because Miss Winfrey wouldn't have selected you if you were. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. You're on mute, Justine.
Thank you. We are getting ready to wrap up shortly. I just want to thank everyone for being on the call today, for the viewers. Anyone who is interested in the programs, the link is at the bottom, wininnovators.com. We'll make sure to post the U.S. Minority Contractors Association link. If there are any additional links that I need to post to the community, please go ahead and send me over the link. And if any, now let's be clear, for the West Side Committee for Change, please tell the public when you have your weekly meetings.
We have our weekly meetings every Wednesday here at our office at 4152 West Cermak, every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We have different speakers and some type of information for the community and for us as well. So if you'd like to come out, you want to speak and give us some information, just contact us and we can make it happen. Thank you.
How do they contact you?
Through our website, or you can call the office. Office number is 773-475-7810. Or you can call me personally. I'll put my number in the chat.
Okay, awesome. 773-475-8710. Thank you. Audrey, how can we get in touch with your organization for the Changing Oasis Project Management Program? Okay. And Professor Clyde, how can we get in touch with you?
It's 868-263-4189. 868-263-4189. I'm sorry. I'll repeat again. 868-263-8149. I am sorry. 8149.
Okay, no worries. 8149. Okay, awesome. And so the one thing that we want to make sure is that everyone will be in touch going forward with the upcoming funding opportunities. Those funding opportunities are going to be time sensitive, and they typically come at the beginning of the year, during the spring, and in the summer months. We don't have a large window in between there, to apply. So we want to make sure that we keep the conversation going. And I'm sure that Brother Mike Holmes with the Black Community Providers Network will be at the forefront of that conversation. We are thankful to Tiama Romero and the Congressman's office for participating. And ultimately, the one thing that we did discuss was ensuring that we build on math and reading curriculum for not just youth, but also their parents, curriculum that will align as potential prerequisites in a pre-apprenticeship pathway to apprenticeship trades program, so that the communities in our urban communities and rural communities have direct access and qualify for enrollment into these programs.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Romero, did you want to, I think she froze up for a second. So that number 475-8701 is for the West Side Committee for Change. And I would ask that Mr. Holmes close out the conversation, and Dr. Frazier lead us out in prayer after Mike.
Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you. So this has been a really great educational experience for me, in particular. Just always hearing people, advocating on behalf of, the sustainability of Black folks, right? And I want to thank Congressman Davis and Tiama Romero for an opportunity they presented to me to elevate this conversation that we're having about Black folks to the national level with a recent appointment to a Presidential Advisory Committee on African Americans, right? And so I think, some of the things that I've heard are, a continuation of what we've been sort of talking about for years. But I think I see how, we can come together and start actually actualizing some of this work. And I think when I hear a call for 150,000 skilled individuals, Justine, I'm trying to figure out how do we message that across this country so that people are aware that opportunity exists for them. So that's something I think we should be talking about moving forward. But it's always good to hear people talking about coming together to resolve some of the issues in our community in a collective way. And I think this is a rich group that has some solid ideas of how to resolve some of this stuff. And I like the idea of trying to incorporate the basic needs of our folks, particularly our young folks, having a basic skill sets to be able to function in society, period. How we figure out how to integrate that in this work at various levels. And I like the idea of, making it a community piece and not always looking for an outside structure to be able to resolve those issues. So so I think this has been great for me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on with you all, and I hope that I can continue to offer something to this conversation. So thanks a lot, Justina. It's great seeing you again, Dr. Frazier.
Yes, it's great seeing you.
Tiama is the rock, so she's always thoughtful, and she's doing a lot of hard work on our behalf.
Yes, she is. She is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Dr. Frazier, if you could please close us out in prayer.
Yes.
By the way, I'm not sure if we mentioned, but Dr. Gail Frazier is associate pastor at Windsor Baptist Church. And we thank Dr. Frazier for covering us in prayer. She's definitely an amazing prayer warrior, and she's one of my confidants. I'm grateful for her life.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. We'll pray right now. Father, we thank you and praise you, oh God, for this opportunity, this gathering that you had us to embark upon to do this great work. Lord, we thank you for Sister Justina Winfrey. We thank you for her life. We thank you for the vision that you placed on the inside of her for WIN Innovators. We thank you for Mr. Holmes, Michael Holmes, and everybody who's on here, Ms. Romero, Mr. King, Professor Clyde, and anyone else, oh God, who has been on this Zoom, on this StreamYard, Lord, we thank you for them. We thank you for the wisdom that you are giving unto us for this season and time to do a greater work. And so as we come together in the spirit of love, in the spirit of unity, in the spirit of empathy for each other, God, we thank you for expanding our coast. You're the one who's going to bring forth the resources. You're the one who's going to bring forth the finances. You're the one who's going to touch the hearts of people to give to the works that you have given us to do and assigned for us to do, to help our young people, to help our children, to help our people. We depend on you, Lord. We're not dependent on man. We're not dependent on any government, but we're dependent on you, and you're the one who will release the resources through however you do it, through whichever source you choose. We are grateful. So this day, God, we bless each person, everybody under the sound of my voice. Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, we honor you, we lift you up, and give you all glory and praise. Amen, amen, and amen. God bless everybody. Until next time. See you later. Bye-bye.